Okay, welcome everyone to week 5 and tradition 5 of this Wednesday Women's Tradition Study. And today it's tradition 5, which is about our primary purpose. Okay, I'm not going to go into detail each week on every tradition, but just a brief run through. Obviously, tradition 1, unity, as I said at week 1. If you can't remember any other tradition or don't know anything about the traditions and forget everything, always just remember tradition 1 over and above all else, unity. Each of us is but one small part of the whole, and we stick together or we die alone. The second one is leadership and the responsibility that comes with that and the importance of rotating leadership. AA is not a spectator sport. It's not a cafeteria where we'll just come and take what we want and then walk away. I found it's most beneficial to be part of service, being a servant. That's what it's about. And someone in a meeting recently shared that this is, normally in an organization, you start at the bottom, work your way up to the top as CEO, and in AA, it's the opposite. We all come in here, we're all CEOs, or we think we should be, or we want to be, and we work our way down to humble servant. And that's actually the best thing. And tradition 3, that basic eligibility requirement for membership and desire to stop drinking. And it used to be an honest desire to stop drinking. I don't know the full story about why that word honest was taken out of there. Tradition 4, autonomy. Each group can do what it wants unless it's going to affect AA as a whole or other groups. And so there needs to be that healthy rotation, informed group conscience, and so on, to make sure that the autonomous group is actually making good, solid decisions that are not going to negatively affect AA as a whole or neighbouring groups. And so here we are, tradition 5 today. It's about carrying the message, our primary purpose. And again, the bookends picture that we've looked at. So, of course, unity, why it works, tradition 12, anonymity, how it works, self-sacrifice being the theme of tradition 12. And so these traditions that we've looked at over these weeks and today relates to the group, authority, membership, autonomy, and today, primary purpose. What are we here for? What are we doing? And so the short form of tradition 5 reads, each group has but one primary purpose: to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. And the long form, I really strongly encourage each and every one of us to start becoming more familiar with the long form, because they have a lot of, even though they're still quite short, they're called the long form, but it's only a small paragraph, most of them. It really tells us the real truth, what the essence of these traditions is. So the long form for tradition 5 reads, each Alcoholics Anonymous group ought to be a spiritual entity having but one primary purpose, that of carrying its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. So the long form talks about the spiritual entity. And to me, that really takes in the previous 4 traditions. And in, the group tradition 2, the higher power, the group conscience is led by the higher power as it expresses itself in the group conscience. So there needs to be a healthy group conscience and so on. So it's a spiritual entity, remembering it's a spiritual program. So it's a collective of people practicing a spiritual way of life. All right, and then so this is from Language of the Heart. It would help if I had the page number there, I've just realised, but what I did was I've taken it off a PDF document. I thought that might be easier for people to read along if they haven't got the book or for whatever reason can't read from the book. My book has it on page 82. So that's on page 82 of Language of the Heart. And in 1948, Bill wrote, says the old proverb, Shoemaker, stick to thy last. Trite, yes, but very true for us of AA. How well we need to heed the principle that it is better to do one thing supremely well than many things badly. That's just self-explanatory. And I love the simplicity of that. I find it a real lifesaver that we don't complicate this. We don't overextend ourselves. We don't need to overburden ourselves with the problems of the world or anything. We just need to stay sober, help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety, get together in a healthy group, and there's power in numbers. There's power in that group where we can have those doors open for the still suffering alcoholic who's fortunate enough to find themselves in the doors of AA. And continuing on from language of the heart, because it has now become plain enough that only a recovered alcoholic can do much for a sick alcoholic, a tremendous responsibility has descended upon us all, an obligation so great that it amounts to a sacred trust. How phenomenal is that? How can it be that someone like me, a fall-down, blackout drunk that burned the bridges everywhere, made a mess, caused mayhem and chaos, caused friction and conflict with everyone and anyone who crossed my path. Look what I've been given, this tremendous responsibility and obligation. And, had someone said to me, this is what AA is about. You're going to have to be responsible. We're going to give you this sacred trust. I may not have wanted it because I didn't want responsibility. I didn't want to grow up, but thank God I was too sick to question anything. And I just stumbled in and grabbed hold of this thing. And sadly, I think people bypass this. And that's why I've underlined that sentence, this tremendous responsibility. And I'm reminded again of that passage that we see floating around called Why Were We Chosen? If anyone's not familiar with that, I can send it to you or put it in the chat. It's a wonderful thing. It tells us the responsibility that a recovered alcoholic has, because only a recovered alcoholic can reach another alcoholic. This disease is too cunning and baffling and tricky. We're going to fool doctors, counsellors, lawyers, husbands, parents, friends, wives. We're going to lie to them and fool them. We're going to tell them we're not an alcoholic, but another alcoholic can see through all that. For to our kind, those who suffer alcoholism, recovery is a matter of life or death. So the Society of Alcoholics Anonymous cannot, it dare not ever be diverted from its primary purpose. And I know when we first went on to this Zoom paradigm, when the pandemic happened, remember there was a lot of chaos in the world regarding, stuff to do around the pandemic. I didn't hear it talked about in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and for that I'm so grateful. I felt so grateful that AA was a safe haven in this world. Families were being torn apart, friendships, people were having opposing views and strong opinions about things to do with the pandemic, not in Alcoholics Anonymous, because our life depends on our unity and staying united and sticking to this primary purpose. We're here for one thing and one thing only. So continuing on with the reading, temptations to do otherwise will come aplenty. Seeing fine works afoot in the field of alcohol, we shall be sorely tempted to loan out the name and credit of Alcoholics Anonymous to them. As a movement, we shall be beset to finance and endorse other causes. Should our present success continue, people will commence to assert that AA is a brand new way of life, maybe a new religion capable of saving the world. We shall be told it is our bounden duty to show modern society how it ought to live. I think I drove some people away in early recovery because I couldn't stop talking about AA and how wonderful it was. I had my coffee table littered with AA literature piled high, and anyone that was fortunate or unfortunate enough to come to my place got to hear all about Alcoholics Anonymous. And continuing the reading, so I feel I'm very talkative today. Sorry, I'll try to curb that. Oh, how very attractive these projects and ideas can be. How flattering to imagine that we might be chosen to demonstrate that olden mystic promise. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Fantastic, you say. Yet some of our well-wishers have begun to say such things. Fortunately, most of us are convinced that these are perilous speculations, alluring ingredients of that new heady wine we are now being offered, each bottle marked success. Of this subtle vintage, may we never drink too deeply. May we never forget that we live by the grace of God on borrowed time, that anonymity is better than acclaim, that for us as a movement, poverty is better than wealth. I don't know about you, but man, that hits me in the feels. I feel very emotional reading that. That speaks to me. I'm on borrowed time. I should have been dead. It's only the grace of God, unmerited favour, no virtue on my part, nothing I've done to deserve this. And here it is. Look what's been given to me. Unbelievable. And may we reflect with ever-deepening conviction that we shall never be at our best except when we hew only to the primary spiritual of AA, that of carrying the message to the alcoholic who still suffers alcoholism. That's our specialty. That's where we shine. I don't know if I've missed one there. I don't know how to go back. Sorry, another little thing. Okay, and so from AA Comes of Age, I just found this little quote from AA Comes of Age, page 109. Today we understand and accept this paradox. The more AA sticks to its primary purpose, the greater will be its helpful influence everywhere. And that makes sense because we specialize. It's like, yeah, we're specialists. We're not professionals, but specialize. We just do one thing well, and we don't worry about anything else. And then from Language of the Heart, page 234, but little by little, I woke up to the possibility that God hadn't put me on earth for the purpose of getting all the money, prestige, and romance that I could lay my hands on. I've been given a primary purpose to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So let's have a look at the illustrated pamphlet. And those of you who've been here regularly are familiar with the illustrated pamphlet, or some of you might be familiar with it anyway. If you've never heard of it, never seen it, I highly recommend it. Fantastic piece of AA literature, and gives another viewpoint of the, I thought I had this ready for sharing, but I'm just opening it now. The picture, the diagrams, the pictures, some of them quite humorous in this illustrated diagram, are really helpful to tell us about the tradition. Sorry about this. I thought I had it ready. It's just not opening up. I might have to go on to the next thing and come back to the illustrated pamphlet. Okay, now all right, where are we at? Apologies for this delay. I might go over to Valerie. Valerie's going to read a reading for us. Come on in, Valerie. So what we've been doing is using the daily reflections.
Thank you, Tuija. Hi, my name is Valerie, grateful recovered alcoholic, and thanks for doing this study with us. This is from page 305 from the Daily Reflections book. And it's October 23rd, and its title is What We Know Best. Shoemaker, stick to thy last. Better do one thing supremely well than many badly. That is the central theme of this tradition, 5 in brackets. Around it, our society gathers in unity. The very life of our fellowship requires the preservation of this principle. And that's from 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 150. The survival of AA depends upon unity. What would happen if a group decided to become an employment agency, a treatment centre, or a service agency? Too much specialisation leads to no specialisation, to frittering of efforts, and, finally, to decline. I have the qualifications to share my sufferings and my way of recovery with the newcomer. Conformity to AA's primary purpose ensures the safety of the wonderful gift of sobriety, so my responsibility is enormous. The life of millions of alcoholics is closely tied to my competence in carrying the message to the still suffering alcoholic. Thank you.
Did you want to share on that at all, Valerie? Did you have anything to comment on?
Yes. Again, it's just my personal experience. When I came into this fellowship first, I was lost. I had no tools. I had no means of, I didn't know whether I would actually be able to do anything about this. And, you know, and I remember the first moments of walking in that door and people just reaching out and saying hi and telling me their name and making me welcome and telling me take a seat. And that was the message I needed to hear. I couldn't take in anything more. You know, I just needed to know that people accepted their alcoholism and that it was okay and it was a safe place to be, and that I knew I was going to be okay, even if it was only for the first hour that I sat in a meeting. To me, that was just enormous. As I say, I wasn't capable of taking in anything more. I couldn't think beyond that. I couldn't think beyond the moment I was in. So I think that's just so important. And there was that sense of unity. I felt it was, you know, there was that sense of group. That unity was very, very apparent in the first meeting I went to. And I wouldn't be here today if I didn't feel that, And clearly the people that spoke to me, they carried that responsibility of carrying the message to me. And it to me, that's what AA is all about. Everything else will work out if you can, you know, if I can accept that I'm alcoholic and that I have a disease. Everything else follows after that feeling of being part of the unity, of being part of a group that can do this. You know, and I often use the phrase, together we can. You know, sometimes when I feel hopeless and I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how to do it, at least I reflect on, well, I pick up the phone, I ring my sponsor, I talk to you in the group, I catch a meeting, you know, that sense of unity. So it's everything, to me, it's everything about AA. And yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for participating and reading and sharing with us, Valerie. And I don't know if it's relevant or not, but for some reason, I'm drawn to page 16 in the big book. I'm just going to have to do some muting. There's some echoing happening. For some reason, as Valerie was sharing about the group that welcomed her, that united group that was there, that carried the message, I'm reading from Bill's story on page 16. I've jumped over to the big book now. An alcoholic in his cups is an unlovely creature. Our struggles with them are variously strenuous, comic, and tragic. One poor chap committed suicide in my home. He could not or would not see our way of life. So that tells me, yep, this is a matter of life and death. But it goes on to say, there is, however, a vast amount of fun about it all. I suppose some would be shocked at our seeming worldliness and levity, but just underneath, there is deadly earnestness. Faith has to work 24 hours a day in and through us, or we perish. And so even though it is life and death and it is deadly serious, we have a lot of fun. And so it's kind of like the two-way street. When we're having a lot of fun and having a great time and it's all wonderful, that's good. I can't afford to forget that it's life and death. And when it is life and death and things are bleak, I can remember that actually we have a solution. There's a way out. It doesn't have to always be like this. So I've managed to find the illustrated pamphlet. Again, highly recommended. Can you all see that? Yeah. So the fifth tradition, each group has but one primary purpose: to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. No matter how different our own personal concerns, we are all bound together by one common responsibility: to carry the message to the still suffering alcoholic. And I don't know, when we're focused on the steps, which of course I need, that's the foundation, that's the foundation side of the three legacies: recovery, unity, service. We don't hear a lot about responsibility. We do in a way. I have to give this thing away in order to keep it. But these traditions, and especially what's coming through here in Tradition 5, is that word responsibility. It's almost like it's not even a choice. It's like, this is what you do. And there's just some pictures there. There's a guy fishing, someone's yelling out help, there's a woman painting, all having a lovely time, enjoying the gifts of sobriety. There's a woman there typing, you know, who knows, she might be working, or a writer. There's a lovely couple there enjoying themselves, having a nice time. He hears someone calling out help, and he's said to his partner there, okay, I have to go. These people they're just dropping everything. And there's a guy doing some carpentry, and there's the picture of them all gathered around the sick alcoholic in his bed. So yeah, it's like I can't afford to let those things, the gifts of sobriety that have been given to me, I can't let them get in the way of my responsibility of carrying the message to the alcoholic who still suffers. And then there's another picture there. And here's our responsibility statement. I am responsible when anyone, anywhere reaches out for help. I want the hand of AA always to be there. And for that, I am responsible. So my question to myself is, what am I doing today to fulfill that responsibility? How am I fulfilling this responsibility? And there's a beautiful picture there of a sober man and a beaten up looking drunk. And the sober guy has got the key to the door marked sobriety. So he's fulfilling his responsibility by carrying the message. And I'll just read what's on that pamphlet. It's not too long for us. Usually the reading's really good in this one as well. Might make it a bit bigger. And then move across. I'm getting good at this. All right, every newcomer learns, some of us the hard way, that the business of staying sober must have top priority. If we fail at that, we can't succeed at anything else. The first tradition tells us that groups should remember their one primary purpose. Often, unthinking enthusiasm puts a group off the main track. One, for instance, offered an expanded AA program that included helping newcomers to find jobs. Tradition 5 doesn't frown on the individual who tells another about a good opening, but when the group turns itself into an employment agency, newcomers may get confused about their primary purpose. AA's function is to help them get sober. Then they can find work for themselves. Using discretion, a member may lend a few dollars needed for a meal or a hotel room, or may even invite a broke alcoholic to be a temporary house guest. But the AA group as a whole is not a friendly finance company, nor a welfare department, nor a housing bureau. But even when acting on their own as individual members, AA lay people certainly shouldn't award themselves honorary medical degrees. I'm just going to have a quick go at muting. There's some echoing there. Okay, lost my spot. Where were we? Certainly shouldn't award themselves honorary medical degrees and hand out diagnoses and prescriptions and amateur analysis of other people's neuroses. Exactly because this personal failing is so common, the AA group in all its dealings should be extra careful to emphasise that it is not invading the medical field. Through the personal experiences of its members, it is qualified to carry only one message: how an alcoholic can recover in AA, that's all. Yet one group recently felt itself equipped to set up an alcoholism information centre. The temptation is understandable. It was even stronger at the time this tradition was written, because public ignorance about alcoholism as an illness was more widespread than it is now. Since then, other agencies have sprung up to assume the task of educating the general public on alcoholism. That is not AA's purpose, but these agencies also are trying to help the active alcoholic. They are our friends, and tradition 6 marks the boundaries of the relationship. So we would be at tradition 6 next week to have a look at what that means. And so we'll go back.
This came back from a search.
Oh, my phone started talking. So we'll go back to the presentation, and just listening to Valerie's share there reminded me that the homework here is just to get your 12 and 12 and read the traditions we've been on. So hopefully for those who've been following along, you've already read traditions 1, 2, 3 and 4 in the 12 and 12. And then that brings us to the inventory questions, or the traditions checklist that we've been looking at each week. And this is AA conference approved literature. And I always thought that this was for the group to do an inventory, but it's actually for me as an individual to look at what kind of AA member am I? Am I actually practicing the principles of the traditions in my life and in all my affairs as well? And even though I'm just going to digress a little bit, step 12, as many of you have been in the Big Book study, step 12 where it says, and practice these principles in all our affairs, we've used chapters 8, 9 and 10 for information about how to practice these principles in all our affairs. But those principles to me now also include the principles of the traditions. And so these checklist questions, there's 6 of them here. The first one, am I willing to firmly explain to newcomers the limitations of AA help, even though they may get mad at me for not giving them a loan or dating advice or help with a job? 2, have I ever imposed on any AA member for a special favour or consideration simply because I am a fellow alcoholic? 3, am I willing to 12-step the newcomer without regard to who or what is in it for me? We must be rid of this selfishness or it kills us. 4, do I help my group in every way to fulfil our primary purpose? So for me and my home group, really, I need to try to be there probably half an hour before the meeting starts to help set up the chairs, help put the banners up, help the tea and coffee, whatever. And if a newcomer turns up, that there's someone available to speak to the newcomer while someone else is setting up, or whatever it is. A group member may have an issue. I just need to be there. I need to be present. I need to be around. And I heard a really good talk on sponsorship by Debbie D recently. If anyone hasn't listened to that yet, highly recommend it. And I think she talks about the home group as well in that talk, and it's really wonderful. And then tradition 5, the 5th question, do I remember that AA long-timers too can be alcoholics who still suffer? Do I try both to help them and to learn from them? 6, does our group ever use money from the basket for dinners or events or for memorials for members who have passed on? So that basket, tradition 7, which we'll look at, what is that money for and what happens with it and how do we contribute to that? And then one last reading. This is from Language of the Heart, page 223. That orange line, it's just to show where I'm starting to read from. And if you've been in meetings in WIM when I'm hosting, it's quite regular for me to read this little portion from Language of the Heart. Our first duty as a society is to ensure our own survival. Therefore, we have to avoid distractions and multi-purpose activity. An AA group as such cannot take on all the problems of its members, let alone the problems of the whole world. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of an AA group. Groups have repeatedly tried other activities and they have always failed. It has also been learned that there is no possible way to make non-alcoholics into AA members. We have to confine our membership to alcoholics, and we have to confine our AA groups to a single purpose. If we don't stick to these principles, we shall almost surely collapse. And if we collapse, we cannot help anyone. So I think that's pretty straightforward. And that brings me to the end of that part of the workshop. If anyone has any questions, shares, feedback, I can put a link to the traditions checklist into the WhatsApp group. I'll do that. I see a question there. Thanks, Deanna. And if you can get a hard copy anywhere, if you see a literature table, please get yourself a copy of that for yourself, for your sponsees, for your friends. It's just a brilliant pamphlet, especially it's short, it's not a long reading, and those little pictures really help to carry the message and to explain it in simple, basic terms. I love the humour as well. There's always a lot of humour in there. So yeah, if anyone does have any questions, comments, primary purpose, like I said, so grateful. We all have problems. It's like, yeah, I've got 99 problems, but I'm only going to bring alcoholism to AA, right? One-on-one, sure, I can talk about whatever I want, one-on-one with another alcoholic if I've got issues about work or parenting or whatever it is, how I'm feeling today. But in a meeting, I need to be laser focused to alcoholism. And one meeting I used to go to, they actually had a little plaque on the table that used to say, "Why am I here? Why am I in an AA meeting?" And I could just think, okay, remember about my alcoholism, remember what brought me here, because that disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful. It can start to look for differences and it can start to look for a way out. Welcome, Balkia. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Balkia. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for the readings again, Tuija, and the other service that's been done. I'm in a place that I lost my sponsor, and today I got a new sponsor, which I'm really grateful for. I'm in step 1 again. I've just been reading the doctor's opinion, and what's absolutely come to me in this traditions reading is the selflessness that Bill and the starters of AA had in the beginning. That was seen by Dr. Silkworth, and that was so appreciated, that there was so much selflessness in these men to give other alcoholics what they had experienced. And today I'm experiencing that too again. You know, it's a fantastic program. I feel so grateful. I'm here in England to scatter ashes of my boyfriend, and he died of the alcoholism and addiction, and 2 years ago, and finally I've got time to do this with his family, and it makes me humble, makes me sad, as well as grateful that maybe one day I can help another alcoholic by my experience. So thank you so much.
Talking when I'm muted, my superpower. And you're helping people, anyone who's sober can help someone, is helping someone. You don't have to be around for a long time. That's how powerful this thing is. Yeah, it's so powerful. We can just be helpful. When I pray and ask God, please show me how I can help the person who's still suffering today, God will reveal to me what I can do. Welcome, Karen.
Hi everyone, morning, afternoon, evening. Thank you, Tuija, so much for all your insight into this tradition and all the service. And thank you, Valerie, as well. And Balkia, is it, for your share? Thank you all. Usually I just listen to these, but today something really stood out for me in, you know, when you say at the back of the book, we look for the traditions in the daily reflections. So I was reading all the different pages, and the one page, 305, October the 23rd, says, for me, this highlights the responsibility that I have and also the simplicity of it all. The bottom part of that page, when it says conformity to AA's primary purpose ensures the safety of the wonderful gift of sobriety. So my responsibility is enormous. The life of millions of alcoholics closely tied to my competence in carrying the message to still suffering alcoholics. And fear and pride got in the way of me doing this for many years because I didn't feel equipped. I didn't feel, I was all full of self. Instead of just thinking, this is a simple message, all I need to do is to carry the message as it was given to me and stick to the book. It's not about me. It's not about whether I use clever words or whether whatever I do is not important. I'm just the messenger. And it really hit home to me today that, you know, this is a responsibility that I have to give back. And I love what you shared about, we're on borrowed time, you know, but for the grace of God, it made me think about that, you know. So because I've been given this new chance to live, because I've been saved, why me? Because God has a purpose for me. And my purpose is to carry the message. And at the moment, I don't have a sponsor that I'm going through the work with from start to finish. And I need to be looking for one because I realize that not just for them, but for me as well, because my primary purpose is to stay sober. And without continually going through this work with someone new, my sobriety is at risk. So it's been a bit of a wake-up call in a way. And I also left October the 27th, global sharing, that bottom bit of the paragraph. It's a sentence that says, I make sure that I always nurture my desire to help other alcoholics. So for me, it's again, so thus ensuring the continuity of the wonderful fraternity of Alcoholics Anonymous. So when I'm nervous or frightened or make excuses, for me, it's a reminder to say, my job is to nurture my desire to help others. So the desire is there, but fear and other outside factors or defects can prevent me from seeking a sponsee. I might feel I'm out of practice. Well, all I need then is to talk to other alcoholics. I've got all of you, all of the experience in the rooms. I've got so much help at my fingertips, not just a sponsor. You know, there's years and years of mature help and support that I can tap into. So for me, it's a bit of a wake up call to my responsibility of not just carrying the message at meeting level, but continually working with someone new. And as if that hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't be here today. So, you know, it's made me think, I need to put some action in. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Karen. Wonderful to hear from you. Hello, Jean. Welcome.
Oh, hi, Tuija. I'm so grateful I'm here this morning and listening to all the shares. I want this so much. I sometimes cry because I just feel I can't get it. I just can't absorb everything. And it's very frustrating for me because I'm quite a long time sober and I've never ever done the steps, or I've never read the big book until last year. I was taken through the steps, the 12 by 12 at the time, which I have shared before, I think. I was told, now you're okay. You just go to meetings, sit and listen, go to meetings, and you don't need to do anything else. I went to meetings for 30 years, and my head, the untreated alcoholic, is so cruel. And I thought there was something else wrong with me then, because everyone else appeared to be so happy and so, going out for coffees and talking about, well, different things they were talking about, not so much program. But one thing I'll say is I never heard anybody speak about the program in the meetings. They never actually spoke, like you're talking, and it's beautiful. I love listening to you. But sometimes I get frightened. I think I better not come back because you laugh at me because I can't absorb it. I'm trying so much. I've got a wonderful, I've got a really good sponsor. She is wonderful. And I've only had this sponsor since November of last year. And I'm on my 5th step, and it took me quite a while. I've done the 4th step so thorough. In fact, I did it from childhood, as a baby, when I was far back as I can remember, because I want to get this. I want to clear all the wreckage of the past, right up until today, and I did that. I'm doing my 5th step, and I'm coming toward the end of it. But I feel with the way you've described things, and you spoke about the beautiful freedom you have through this work. And the only way I can keep it is by giving it away. And I feel in myself, I'm not good enough. I'm not really good enough to give it away. And I mean, I never missed a meeting over 30 years. I've never, ever drank over 30, well, it's 31 years now. But I have never drank over that period of time. I stopped smoking. I stopped overeating. I stopped everything. And yet, the only thing that I feel is I prayed a lot, and I was so scared. I kept very close to God, my higher power, kept very close. And I'm sure he carried me until I could get here today. And I know I've missed quite a few of the meetings, and I'm so sorry. I had builders in, and so many things were happening. But I just, in the morning, I get up, and all I think of is AA. In my head all day, that's all I do. And I'm on, since lockdown, I was on 6, 7, 8, 9 meetings. Every hour I'm on a meeting all day from the beginning of lockdown. And it's the same now, and I'm trying all the time to absorb, to learn. But I think I'm a very slow learner. I really do think so. But I've got an awful lot of fear in me. And I go to a meeting, and I'd love to share at the meeting every morning. I would love to share at that meeting. I feel I'm not good enough. Everyone else is better than me. And I feel that if I say something, it might be wrong. And I'm gradually trying to get over that. It's confidence, I realize, and an awful lot. I love AA. I love the big book. I love everything. And I love all the people, because it's given me, even though I've suffered from untreated alcoholism for all that time, I was nearly mental. I could have been locked up if I didn't. But it is only through the grace of God I got here today. And that is the honest truth from my heart. And because I couldn't stop drinking, it was by sheer accident I got sober. I couldn't stop. It was unbelievable. I couldn't stop. And a priest 12-stepped me, and that was it. It was taken away from me completely. But that is the reason I expect I could stay sober. But my whole life is trying to learn, trying to all the time, trying. And it's heartbreaking sometimes for me, and I really cry about it because I feel like I can't get it. I know it sounds very stupid and childish and it isn't self-pity. It's just that it's fear. The fear is so bad. It's really awful. And I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm sorry I went on so much, but I want this program so much. I want it so much.
God bless you, Jean. It's always wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing with us, and please keep coming and stay with us. And I do sometimes quote out of the Bible, and maybe I don't know that much about it, but I'm sure it's in there somewhere. It says, ask and you shall receive. And you've already got this, Jean. Now it's just about the paradox. Cling to it, but give the whole thing away. So, and don't question it. Just say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. If the only prayer I say in a day is thank you, then that's enough. Hi, Nancy. Welcome.
Hi, Tuija. Thanks. Hi, ladies. My name is Nancy. I am an alcoholic. And Jean, I hope I can give you some words of encouragement about what I'm going to say, because I'm going to talk about a lot of the fear that you just talked about. So you guys probably don't realize it, but I'm really painfully shy, and I'm very uncomfortable around people. Large groups of people make me very uncomfortable. But because of this tradition, because it is my responsibility to carry the message, I have been forced to overcome my fear of people. And I know you guys think that I'm talking, like, oh my God, how can Nancy be so shy? Like, she just says all this great stuff and it's always right on topic. This is 30 years of practice. I didn't come into the program being able to share like I share. Yeah. And I'm not trying to compete with anybody. It's what I had to teach myself to do in order to not be terrified. A lot of what I say is stuff that I've said many, many, many times before, because I'm not very good at just randomly saying stuff because I get really nervous. So I don't really come up with anything new a lot. So that's my little secret to tell you guys, is that most of what I say I've said probably 100 times before, because carrying the message is very simple. And so I have figured out how to communicate and look like I'm comfortable doing it, because I've said it over and over and over again. And I usually don't vary too much. Maybe I'll respond to something that somebody says in the particular meeting that I'm in. So that's kind of why I'm saying it the way I'm saying it now, because I wouldn't normally say it this way. But, I am actually really uncomfortable, sort of in an unstructured situation where I don't already know what I need to do. And so that's why I like coming to meetings. I would never do what Tuija is doing, by the way. I so love what you do. Tuija, you've really got this, like, you found your niche in terms of that, right? I can come into a meeting and share for 5 minutes, but then I got to shut up because I'm like, my heart's pounding and I'm in a panic over here. I may not look like it, but that's 30 years of practice. I've been practicing this for 30 years because I know it's my responsibility to carry the message. And that was what my sponsor made me do. She made me get outside my comfort zone and do stuff that forced me to carry the message. And I had, my friends and stuff around me saying this, is this life or death? Do you believe that this is life or death? Your life depends on this? Then you've got to do it. Yeah. And I had to find a way to force myself to do it. And I know that it looks all like I'm smooth, but let me tell you, it wasn't. But I had to take this seriously. And I'll just tell you one more thing. So I was part of this young people's thing when I was in New and Sobriety. It's called ICYPOTS, the International Conference of Young People. And so we had to learn the traditions and we had to live the traditions and all this stuff, carry the message. And so one of the things we had to do was we had to go secretary meetings. We had to go out there. Everybody on the committee had to volunteer and be a secretary of a committee while we were in the planning stage of this conference, it was like part of what we had to do. And I had managed to avoid secretarying a meeting ever. And so I had to do it for 6 months. And that was the only time I secretaried a meeting for like 20 years. And then when we moved to Guam, I ended up having to do it one more time. And then I didn't do it again until I started hosting on the Women's International Marathon, because I hate it. I hate being the center of attention. It makes me so uncomfortable, but I have to carry the message. It is my responsibility. The fellowship will not exist if I don't carry the message. And that's my responsibility. It's been hammered into me by the people around. And so I know you guys think like I'm going to shut up now, but see, I don't even know when to stop. Like once I get going, I can't stop. So anyway, now you know my secret, and it's because of this tradition. So I'm going to shut up.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Always wonderful to see you and hear you. Welcome, Jackie. Great to see you.
Hi, everybody. Jackie, alcoholic. Recently, I was on a cruise, and there was an itinerary published every day and put through the door about what was on and what wasn't on. But at 3 o'clock every day, they handed over the wedding chapel to friends, Dr. Bob and Bill W. So I thought, brilliant, I'll go. And the first day I went, there was a young girl there, and she came. And I thought, that's nice, at least there's one other person. And she explained she was new in the door, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, the second day, third day, whatever, she didn't turn up again. And I did see her about the ship, but I did have enough to realise that it wasn't my job to chase her about the ship and tell her about and tell her about what a wonderful gift she could have if she stayed in it. It was only my job to be in that room for the time that we were allocated, so that she could come if she wanted to. And we could have sat and talked a wee bit about recovery. But I'm like Nancy, I don't like talking. I don't do it very often. But that did have an effect on me, and I liked the fact that the ship actually gave us that. We didn't need to ask for it; it was already there. So I'm going away on another one in a couple of weeks, and hopefully I'll still have to go to the wedding chapel for that rest and get you. So we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jackie. Great to hear about your cruise. That took me right back to when I went on a cruise, and I asked the director to put Friends of Bill W on there, and I had my little big book with me. Nobody turned up, but it was like, okay, I've done what I needed to do. I've done what that little still small voice inside of me told me to do. So and I left my little big book in the library there on the cruise ship. So who knows, maybe someone will find it one day. And that pretty much brings us to the end, unless there was any other questions or comments or shares that we haven't gotten to yet. Hi, Marsha. Great to see you here again.
Hi, Tuija. Thank you for the meeting. Thank you for the service. My name is Masha and I'm an alcoholic. And thank you for you, all of you. Thank you for doing the traditions. I really, the traditions make me feel safe, and it's really important for me. And tradition 5, I mean, I knew before I came to AA, I knew I was an alcoholic 4 years prior. But like you said, I would fool, especially myself, to all my therapists, to everybody. I knew I was an alcoholic. I told them so. I recognized it. I come from a dysfunctional family, but I just didn't get it. And I crawled into AA, and I knew I was going to die. But I needed another alcoholic to tell me how to get to the solution, because I didn't trust anyone. And they told me, and I recognized, I related to it, and that gave me hope. And in the beginning, I couldn't stand it either because there was so much pride too. I was like, how do they do it? And that's the how. Honesty, openness, and willingness. And I was willing, but I just didn't get it. And I'm so thankful for that. But also, I'm so thankful for the traditions, because I did leave AA for 5 years and became a dry drunk, you know, and I was batshit crazy. I didn't drink because I need the traditions to make me safe, even in the groups. So thank you for this, and thank you for giving me more insight, all of you. And doing service and giving your hand, you know, there's so many levels, and we never done learning. And I'm so grateful for that. But yeah, the only thing I have to do is share my experience and help somebody else what I did. It's that easy. So thank you.
Wonderful to hear you. Thank you so much, Marsha. Wonderful share to finish this workshop on today. Just finally, one last little thing, and it is in Daily Reflections, January 31. I think it actually originally probably comes from Language of the Heart. But it says, our traditions are key elements in the ego deflation process necessary to achieve and maintain sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous. So I've often said, look, if I drink again, come and ask me. Was I praying? Was I meditating? Was I sponsoring anyone? Was I trying to carry the message? Was I living in the traditions? Because according to this reading, if I'm not in the traditions, I'm missing out on elements of ego deflation that are necessary to achieve and maintain sobriety. So there's a kind of a warning for me that I need to have the traditions in my life. And the best way I've found to learn about the traditions and practice the traditions is to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous through home group membership. So, and obviously that's what these last traditions have been talking about, specifically traditions 2, 3, 4, and 5 have specifically related to the group in Alcoholics Anonymous. And so next week we'll go on to the next set of traditions which deal with, let's have a quick look. They deal with money, 6, 7, and 8. Never endorsing, financing, or lending the AA name to any other enterprise. 7, being fully self-supporting, and 8, being non-professional. Our 12th step can never be professionalized or monetized. So that's what's coming up for the next 3 weeks. And remember your homework, just to read Tradition 5 in the 12 and 12. And yeah, if you've not read the preceding ones, you've got 5 chapters to read. And so for anyone who would like to join in, we'll just finish the same way we started. Please unmute yourself if you'd like to join in to say the responsibility statement. I am responsible for anyone
who on any platform to be there. I am responsible. Thank you, God. Amen.